A taxpayer walks through their local park and notices a city worker carelessly scattering a handful of grass seed onto the soil, wasting a few cents in the process. In the taxpayer's mind, those few wasted cents quickly extrapolate into a sweeping theory of total financial incompetence across the entire local government. Later that year, when the town asks for a budget increase to keep basic services running, that same taxpayer votes no, assuming the mayor is sitting on a mountain of squandered cash. But the macroeconomic math tells a completely different story. Right now, over half of all 351 municipalities in Massachusetts are running severe structural deficits. These local governments are facing a brutal ultimatum: either hike local taxes to catch up with inflation or begin systematically slashing vital public services. Take the city of Gardner. On paper, it boasts a massive $96 million annual budget. Yet, like dozens of its neighbors, the city is functionally broke. The confusion stems from a complete misunderstanding of public money. A massive top-line revenue number creates the illusion of wealth, but it masks a total lack of actual financial flexibility. A city's budget has two strict categories: discretionary, money the city chooses how to spend, and non-discretionary, legally mandated funds. Right away, a massive chunk vanishes for legacy debt service. Then you lose another huge share to cover mandatory health insurance for municipal employees. Next comes the state. Through a process known as the cherry sheet, the state government forcibly deducts money from local aid to pay for regional services, intercepting those funds before they even reach the city's bank account. This covers highly specific, unavoidable costs, like mandatory payments for regional mosquito spraying programs. Finally, strict minimum per-pupil spending requirements lock up millions more, removing all flexibility from the education budget. When the dust settles, well over half of the entire city budget is completely untouchable by the local government, leaving only a fragile sliver of cash that they can actually control. A city's survival simply doesn't depend on that $96 million top line. It depends entirely on how aggressively and creatively they can stretch that remaining fraction of a percent at the bottom. To survive on that tiny margin, cities leverage extreme short-term risks to capture massive amounts of outside capital. A few years ago, Gardner made the highly scrutinized decision to spend $50,000 to hire a third-party grant writer. For a cash-strapped town, handing over that kind of upfront money is terrifying. But as this data visualization shows, that initial $50,000 node triggered a multiplier effect, rapidly bringing in millions of dollars in new federal and state funding. Winning the money is only the first step. Grants are heavily restricted for specific uses, like community development block grants, forcing the city to use a second tactic: financial repurposing. Take the historic School Street school building. The city secured grant money specifically to demolish it, but at the very last second, a private developer stepped in, bought the property, and saved the structure to build apartments. Suddenly, the city had unused demolition funds. Instead of returning the money, they legally pivoted and reappropriated those exact funds to build a brand new pavilion at the local Greenwood Pool, doubling their infrastructural output. Modern municipal finance requires the aggressive, opportunistic engineering of outside capital to bypass fixed local constraints. Fiscal responsibility requires looking past the few cents of spilled grass seed. Instead, it demands ruthless, long-term asset management. Gardner High School, built in 1976, serves as a high-stakes proof of concept for this philosophy. The administration recently decided to proactively sink $3 million into unglamorous, hidden infrastructure, funding roof replacements, locker room updates, and an auditorium got rehab. $3 million sounds expensive until you consider the alternative: letting the building fail and triggering the massive industrial effort required to build a brand new high school from the ground up. Looking at this scale graphic, Gardner's $3 million maintenance cost is incredibly light compared to neighboring towns, which are currently facing bills of up to $150 million for new school construction. Avoiding $120 million in new debt loops perfectly back to the city's budget constraints. It prevents a massive new spike in the legacy debt service that constantly eats away at their critical discretionary funds. To survive systemic inflation and crippling fixed costs, a city must abandon the illusion of penny pinching. They have to spend strategically today to prevent total financial catastrophe tomorrow.